Well, good morning. I'm Bob Kiter, Plant Dr. Bob, and we're here at Waterloo Gardens in Exton in our Hope is Growing community garden. It's a 20,000 square foot garden where we're growing produce to donate to the Lord's Pantry in Downingtown and the Chester County Food Bank in Guthriesville. Now, we've been having some difficulties with some different insects up here in the garden. I thought you might be having some of those difficulties at home as well. So I wanted to share with you the insects, the damage they're causing, and how you could deal with it. Well, these are our collared plants. We have several leaf-chewing insects, 3 to be exact, that are chewing holes in our leaves. There's one here called a harlequin bug. You can see it's an orange, sort of looks like a stink bug. It's orange and black. And this isn't a leaf chewer, but it's a sucking bug. It has little sucking mouth parts, and they suck the sap from the leaves and cause the leaves to wither up and die, like this right here. And we also have a cabbage worm. Here's our cabbage worm on the back. This is a mature one, and you can see it's gray and has the little yellow stripe. There's his little head. Now these are chewing the very, very large holes. We have another beetle here too. It's a little tiny black beetle. There it is right there, very tiny and black. And that's called a flea beetle. You can see when I touch them, they actually jump away like fleas. And they make little tiny holes in the leaves. And we have a green cabbage worm down here on the young foliage. And it's chewing a nice big hole here in the leaf. You can see it's green, kind of blends in with the foliage, so you have trouble seeing it. And down in here you can see there's some worm frass. They're these little green balls, are the excrement from the cabbage worms. Now there are different ways we could control this pest on this crop. One way would be using the principle of exclusion, where we would put a remay cover, what we call a crop cover, over the crop when the crop is first planted. And that's weighted down, and then the bugs cannot get to the crop at all to feed on it. So that's a very simple principle called exclusion. The other way, of course, would be to spray with insecticidal sprays. We could use the Bacillus thuringiensis on the worms, and that would be toxic to worms only, but we'd still have the other fella to deal with here, the harlequin bug, and that we'd have to use something like pyrethrum and rotenone on, which is fine for organic gardening. If you weren't an organic gardener and you're a chemical gardener, certainly something like a malathion or 7 would take care of these other 2 fellows. This is our eggplant crop. We have a beautiful row of eggplant, and here you can see the flea beetle damage exclusively and no damage from any other critters. And once again, these flea beetles are these little tiny black beetles right there, and they do jump like fleas. There you can see them jumping. That's why they call them flea beetles. And they make these little tiny holes. Now, the plants are surviving the beetle damage very well and producing very prolifically. So just because you have a pest doesn't mean you have to take action on it. If the crop is surviving and making a beautiful crop of eggplants for you, which our eggplants are, you don't need to do anything about it at all. This is our zucchini squash row, and the zucchinis were bearing very prolifically until only recently, when we were attacked by something called a squash vine borer. This is a clear-winged moth that lays her egg in the basal portion of the zucchini vine. And the egg hatches, and there's a little white worm, and the white worm then bores into the base of the stalk. You can see there the hole where it entered. And we have this boring damage then coming down the center of the stalk, which kills the vine. And here's the actual borer. It's a white worm. There it is right there. Boring into the plant. Now if you catch this right as it goes in, you can excise the worm and bury the stem with earth, and the stem can reroot, and the vine can survive. But most of the time we don't catch it in time. And this this actually has 2 borers in it. Look at that. There's another one right there. And let's get that out of there. You can see it a little better. These vines are pretty tough. I had to use my pruning shears to get in here, but you can see the borers do the vine in. Now once again, this could be kept out of the vine with the remay crop cover to once again practice the principle of exclusion. The other thing that I've seen homeowners do is they will take and wrap the base of the plants with aluminum foil. to keep the vine borer from laying her eggs. So once the borer is in there, like I say, usually by the time you find it, it's too late and it has done a lot of damage, and the vine withers and dies. We're down a little further in the zucchini row and looking at a second pest that attacked the vines after they were attacked by the squash vine borer. And this second pest caused this stunting and crippling of the new growth. That's our squash bug. And it's a little gray bug. These are in the nymph stage. They're usually about twice this size when they're adults. And once again, this could have been kept out with a crop cover where the whole crop is shielded from the pest, or we could spray once again with something like the pyrethrum rotenone, the 7 or the malathion to kill these bugs. But the vines were too far gone with the borer, so it didn't merit any treatment. Let me welcome you to call me if you have troubles in your garden, and we'll look at the options for pests and diseases. I'm at 610-363-0800, extension 2490. And thanks for watching our video today.